Hello and welcome to episode 11 of the Primary Maths Podcast, the show where we talk all things primary maths. I'm Jon Cribwell.
And I'm Becky Brown.
We are continuing our bite-sized summer editions this week, short enough to fit in between trips to the all-inclusive bar, or in this case, between a Spanish siesta and a seagull stealing your chips in Whitby. More will be revealed about those things in due course. Last week, just in case you missed it, we discussed maths leadership and also why we find bargains more enticing when they're shown in percentages rather than fractions. So go back and have a listen to that one if you missed it.
This week, we are bringing you a Maths of Life holiday edition. I've just come back from a lovely 10 days in Spain. And Jon, you've been up to Whitby.
Yeah, slightly less Spanish in vibe, I'll be honest, in Whitby, but lovely nonetheless. And we've been spotting maths everywhere that we go, obviously, from exchange rates to crazy golf scores to how many steps it takes to climb up to Whitby Abbey. And the answer to that question is lots.
Or how much you'd have to eat and drink to make an all-inclusive holiday good value for money. The answer to that one is also lots. You're right, Jon. Maths follows you everywhere, even when you are trying your hardest to get away from it.
Not that I would ever try to get away from maths, Becky. That would be impossible. So today we will share the maths that we noticed while we were on our separate travels and how you can use similar real-world examples with your pupils back in school. So, Becky, to be honest, it was a couple of weeks ago now, wasn't it, that you were sunning yourself in Spain. It probably feels like a lifetime ago if holidays are anything to go by. Yeah. But how was it? What did you notice while you were away?
Well, when I was actually away, lots of things, which I might come to at the end. But the story I wanted to share with you today, which I was in two minds about sharing, was about before we went on holiday. The reason I'm not sure about sharing this particular story is it does make me look a little bit silly.
We love a self-deprecating story on this show. So, yeah, I've shared enough of them about myself in the past. So I'm looking forward to hearing one from you, Becky. Go for it.
Well, the thing with this one, Jon, is it sort of undermines me being a maths expert. However, what I do think is it's quite a good lesson in how common sense is a really important aspect of problem solving and how sometimes your emotions can actually prevent you from engaging that said common sense.
Look, even Roger Federer double faulted sometimes, didn't he? Do you know what I mean? Even he missed a sitter now and again. So don't beat yourself up about it, Becky. It's all a learning curve.
Yeah, well, and you know, we often say, don't we, in the classroom that we learn from mistakes. So hopefully I've learned from this one.
Exactly.
So just to set the scene for you.
We're all looking forward to learning from it as well. Yeah.
Oh dear. So to set the scene, if you'll remember, before I went on holiday, it was excruciatingly hot here. It was very hot. So I was trying desperately to get all the packing finished. I'd shipped the family out, told them to go and do something for a bit so I could just get everything sorted. It was really hot. I was a little bit stressed. I had a rehearsal to go to in an hour or so. And although I'd started packing weeks before, it was just that last minute sort of panic. Needed to get ready. So
sorry,
we had decided.
Was this a rehearsal for a show?
Yes.
I seem to remember us having a conversation about the fact that you weren't going to do any more shows after the last show. And I seem to also remember saying to you at the time, you'll definitely do another show, Becky. So that's just interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I had retired from amateur dramatics, Jon. But as you said, I did get pulled back in. So, yeah.
Just when you think you're out of it, they pull you back in.
Yes, it's no escape.
So, okay, so you set the scene beautifully. Everybody's gone out. You've got all the time that you need to pack the cases and make sure you've got everything that you need for your holiday.
Yeah. So as we've talked about before, haven't we? When you're calculating holiday costs, there's lots of hidden costs, particularly if you're flying. And when we had booked a holiday, we had thought, well, there's 4 of us in the family, but 3 suitcases will be fine. 2 of them are children. We're going somewhere hot. We won't need lots of things. So we booked 3 suitcases, the cheapest that you could get them at 23 kilos. Fine. So I've got my suitcases, I've got all my stuff, packed them all up, and I've got one of those handy luggage scales that you pull up and you can see the weight. And I'm sure you probably know where this is going, Jon. So weighed them all of them were over 23 kilos. One of them quite significantly above 23 kilos. And
Wow.
in my...
I mean, 23 kilos seems like a lot. That is a
Yes,
lot of
it does.
Speedos.
And
That
you
is a
are
lot of
engaging common
Speedos.
sense there, Jon.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
wasn't. Because in my mind, my initial reaction was, oh, the airline is obviously going to make it really hard for you to fit
Yeah.
within this lowest bracket. So, of course, my cases are too heavy and I'm going to have to unpack, and just emotion took over them. So I spent a long time going through, moving things around cases. Do we really need this snorkel? Can we lose this pair of flip-flops? Whatever. Anyway, thought I'd sorted it, weighed them again, still over. By this time, I've run out of time, so I've gone to rehearsal and texted my husband to say, we're going to need to upgrade our cases. Left it at that. Things everywhere. You can imagine it was so organised and there's just stuff everywhere. Got to rehearsal, sort of explained everything, explained that I was a bit flustered and this was happening. And obviously people at rehearsal know that what my job is and that I'm generally quite a sensible person. And so the collective decision was, there's something wrong with those scales. Your scales aren't right, Becky. You need to borrow someone else's. That must be it.
You can't possibly be taking 75 kilos of belongings with you. Collectively.
Yeah.
Surely.
So I got home later that evening. Family have returned. Husband, nice and clear-headed about it, says, well, let's just weigh them again. And could you guess what I'd done?
There must be faulty scales, Becky. That's all I can think of. I can't imagine that you would have read the scale incorrectly or missed a decimal point or something of that nature.
Well, it wasn't quite that bad because I had read the scales correctly. However, I'd read them in pounds and not kilos.
Ah, right.
And as we know what I know generally it's 2.2 pounds as a kilo. So this was significantly heavier, but it had not even crossed my mind that I would have done that. And actually somebody at rehearsal suggested that. They were saying, well, can you actually pick these cases up? And I said, yeah. And they were like, well, you can't have a 40 kilo case. And I was like, there's no way I've done that. Of course I haven't.
So did the scales have kilos and pounds on them, or were they just from the 1960s and in pounds only?
No, they did have both. But I had, I think because I'd expected them to maybe be too heavy, I just assumed, and this is where the emotion came in, and I think we need to be aware of this, don't we, when we're teaching all the time, that actually you're not always coming to maths with a calm and confident manner.
No.
Most of the time, but not always. And the emotion took over, and I didn't even consider, common sense didn't come into it. I didn't think, well, of course I can't lift a 40 kilo case. And so that was my
I don't know. I can imagine
you're
very strong, Becky. I would imagine, you just chuck that up in the air without thinking about it. That does remind me. So when I first moved into education, I was working in a secondary school I may have mentioned in the DT department to get some experience of working in schools, really, because I've not been in one since I left at 16 to go off to college. And one of my jobs was to prepare the wood and things that children would need, students would need to make their DT projects. And so they would come to the sort of little doorway that we had into the technicians' dungeon, it felt like, where the big power saws were and things like that. And they come with these little pieces of paper and they just have written on them numbers like 72. And you'd be like, well, 72 what? 72 millimeters, 72 centimeters, 72 inches. And by and large, they had absolutely no idea what they'd measured in, because they weren't thinking maths at that point. They were thinking DT, and they were just grabbing a ruler or a tape measure and writing down whatever number they happened to see closest to where they wanted it to be, without thinking about what that unit of measurement was at all. So you will know that you're not alone. there, Becky. There are
Yeah.
thousands of year 7, 8, and 9 children that make exactly the same mistakes as you, week in, week out in DT lessons.
Yeah. Well, as you can imagine, my husband is a secondary maths teacher as well. It is not, I'm not going to be able to forget this. And not long after, on holiday, we were by the pool, of course, and a couple of the animation team were coming around with a watermelon, asking us to guess the weight of the watermelon. But the thing is with weight is, I think if you can estimate you can see distance. You can't see weight, can you? It's quite abstract.
No, that's right. You can have things can be more dense, can't they, than you might imagine, or hollow.
Yeah, and I think the only thing I could do was I didn't even know where to begin. I just knowing this had already happened and already feeling a little bit embarrassed about it. The only thing I could think of, well, actually, if I hold this watermelon like a baby, I know a sort of average weight of a newborn baby. I used what I knew, but if you're not, I didn't guess a particularly good guess. I didn't win. But if you're working with weight all the time and mass, I guess you might have things to compare it to. It's like at rehearsal, the director works with scenery all the time. So he's like, well, one of those big heavy backdrops at 40 kilos. And I'm thinking, you might know that, but I didn't know that. So it's very abstract, isn't it? So
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And that's why representations are so important, aren't they? And having hands-on, practical equipment that you can make comparisons to and get a point of reference, like a newborn baby, for instance. If you want to, it's always my go-to reference for anything less than sort of 5 kilos, or watermelons. Classically in maths, you should have got the watermelon. As a maths specialist, you should have got the watermelon. I mean, that comes up in maths questions all the time. It's the only place I ever interact with watermelons really in real life is Dirty Dancing reruns and maths questions.
Yeah, exactly. But there you go, Jon. So now I have got a story, and I will, when I'm talking about estimating weight in future, share that story, because I think it is important to share with the children that A, mistakes can be made, and B, common sense does need to prevail sometimes.
But let's give you your due. You've taken it upon yourself to organise all this yourself. You packed everybody off out the house so that you could, you could take that responsibility yourself, Becky. So don't beat yourself up too badly about it. I'm doing currently the same thing at the moment. We were talking just before we started recording that having just come back from Whitby last week, I've managed to do 2 days of work, and now I'm going camping in Wales. And looking at the amount of camping equipment that I've got to fit into my car boot and doing some rough estimations and calculations and thinking there is I'm going to have to do two 7-hour journeys, I think, to get everything down to the campsite where it's supposed to be. So I'll let you know how that went next time I see you.
Yeah, good luck with that, Jon.
Yeah, so my maths of life. So I was, as I've just mentioned, I was up in Whitby last week. We had a really lovely week. We had a whole week without a drop of rain, which is unheard of for one of our traditional summer holidays. Lots of days on the beach. We did some beach cricket. I ate my own body weight in ice cream almost daily, I think. I don't know. Whitby's a little way up the coast from yourself, Becky, but there's a famous chip shop there called the Magpie Cafe that we queued up outside of to get some overpriced chips, and then had to turn into sort of a ninja to try and protect them from the local seagull mafia who were trying to take their cut, their protection money. But one of the kids' favourite things to do whenever we go to the coast is to find the tackiest arcade that they can. Not to go on Time Crisis, which sadly seems to be missing now from most of the arcades. That was always my go-to game. But what they want to go on is the 2p coin pusher machines.
Of course. Much cheaper than Time Crisis.
Well, you say that. Each go is definitely much cheaper than Time Crisis, isn't it? Just 2p a go, and that they were given a bag of 2p coins that their grandparents had collected over the last year, although that bag of 2p coins is much smaller than it used to be because we don't spend cash and get change like that anymore, do
Yeah.
we? So there was a time when they'd have had a huge bag of 2p coins or 1p coins, but anyway. But those coin pusher machines, they're a bit of a staple of the British seaside for any international listeners. I believe they've gone all around the world now. I did a little bit of a historical dive into them, but this is very, very brief, just to find out that they've been around since the 1960s. And a company called Crompton's launched their Penny Falls machine. And now you can find them all around the world, Japan, America, and of course, Whitby. So we spent probably, I don't know, an hour and 20 minutes over a couple of days on these 2p machines. We won 5 miniature rubber ducks and 2 key rings.
Key
And
rings, I
that
was going to
only
say.
cost us about £8, I think, which seems like a bargain for some rubber ducks and a couple of key rings, plastic key rings. But while
you
I
had
was
fun.
watching, and the fun, yeah, it wasn't as much fun on the second day when we didn't win anything, and my 7-year-old wouldn't accept that was a possibility, and so wanted more and more money to keep feeding in. But I was thinking from a maths point of view that they are potentially fascinating. You've got every coin drop is basically a little probability experiment. You think you're choosing the perfect spot, but then it bounces or it ricochets, lands somewhere unexpected maybe. There's angles, trajectories at play as well. Timing, the art of trying to wait till the slider's in the right position, I think, before letting your coin go. But I was also thinking, because I've been doing some work with the maths team recently on financial education, there's also that idea of value and money sense. So as you say, take into account the value of the time spent having fun. How much is that worth? Also, how much are the 5 little plastic ducks worth and the keyring? And how much value have you actually got out of your 2p's? There was also a little bit of number, of course, because when we went to exchange our pound coins for 2p coins, I could quiz my daughter on how many 2p coins we would get back for our pound. Got to make the most of all these opportunities.
Absolutely, yeah. Make the most
Becky.
of
it. So that was all good fun. I was thinking there's lots of maths there. The other little bit of maths that was obvious maths, if you like, that we did was we played Crazy Golf. And we played that a couple of times because we won my daughters each won another game at the end of the round of Crazy Golf. There was a thing where if you get the ball in the hole on the final hole or whatever, you get a free go, which I thought was genius because 2 of us got it and 2 of us didn't. So we had to pay again for the other 2 people to, yeah. It's great bit of marketing there.
Marketing, yeah,
but
absolutely.
They were so excited to get their free go and their little token to have a free go next time. So we did go back, and I improved my round score by 3 shots, which I was very pleased with. But went from second to third out of the 4 of us whilst doing that, because despite me getting an average of 2 shots per hole, which I thought was very good. I know.
That is very good.
I know. Yeah. Other people got holes in 1 and I didn't, and that absolutely ruined my average. But the other little bit of maths that I spotted, and this might also explain why I came second and third, was that our youngest daughter was taking a unique approach to counting her shots as we were going around the course. She was sort of unitising and kind of combining, sets of shots into one shot.
Clever.
So although she may have technically hit the ball 3 times, it was all part of the same sort of direction towards the hole, and that just counted as 1 shot. Or if you had to move it away from the edge,
golf technique.
a little bit. Unitising, yeah, she's done a bit of that already in year 1 and year 2, so she's putting that to good use. So I was very pleased to see that, even though it meant that I didn't win. So maths everywhere you look. Not all of it fair, not all of it obvious, but all of it good fun.
Yeah, I love that, John. You've described 2 classic British seaside activities there as well. Crazy golf
Yeah.
and arcades.
Well, I am so far from the seaside that it's always special to go. And that moment when you can see the sea for the first time. I mean, the place that is furthest from the coast, I'm not sure if it's in the UK or in England. In fact, let me just look that for you. Furthest from the coast. Let's go UK. Yeah, so the place that is furthest from the coast, anywhere in the UK, is a little parish called Cotton in the Elms, which is in Derbyshire, so fairly close to where I live. So I am about as far away from the sea as you can get. But I'm going to put you on the spot here, Becky. How far do you think the furthest distance from the sea that you could possibly be in the UK? And I know this is measurement again, and I apologise, but only a little bit. I'll take an answer in miles or kilometres. Absolutely fine. Not a problem.
John, what are you
can
doing
work in
to
whichever
me?
unit you want to be. But the furthest place in the UK. Now, the point of this is that it is surprising. So it's fine.
Okay.
Don't overthink it. So how far is the furthest away you could possibly get from the sea anywhere in the UK?
On land,
Let's say
presumably.
on land. Yeah. Yeah.
I was going to say
not
we
in
could
the
just
air.
go up.
Yeah. That's yeah.
The
The answer to
okay.
that is infinite.
So, as if I haven't already told the world that I can't estimate
We'll get it
measures,
all out of the
I'm
way
now
in
gonna
one
do it again.
episode. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go miles because that is my go-to.
Mhm.
And I think I'm going to go 210 miles.
I think that is a very, very sensible, completely inaccurate guess. But yeah, you will be surprised, and that's the point. Obviously, it's as the crow flies. We're talking, straight line distance from this
Yeah.
village, not how far you might have to drive, because that's very different.
Yeah.
But it's 70 miles. 70
Is that
miles. That's it.
all?
Yeah, I know. That's it.
Oh,
So
so
you're never actually
yeah,
that
it was
far
very
from the sea.
inaccurate.
Yeah, but I
Oh.
think I would have guessed about 200 miles as well. I think most people probably would. But it's only 70 miles. Yeah. Which is, as I say, a little village in Derbyshire. So I am about as far away from the sea as you can get. So it's always nice to go there and do those little summer holiday activities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even nicer when it's not raining for a change.
Definitely. And I am very close to the sea, but we wouldn't call it the seaside. Southampton isn't really a seaside town. It's I'm very close to the docks. It's not quite the same. So you can be close to the sea and not close to the seaside.
That is true. Yeah. Yeah. It's not a quintessential British seaside resort, is it? Southampton.
No.
I know Southampton less well than I know Portsmouth. I used to go to Portsmouth quite a lot because we had family there. But yeah. The closest we've got is a little place called Matlock Bath, which is Matlock Bath, if you're southern, which is basically a seaside resort in the middle of Derbyshire, next to a river rather than the sea. But it's almost like a promenade down the side of a river, and there are far too many chip shops for one, quarter-mile stretch. Whippy ice cream, candy floss, arcades, all the things that you would kind of expect in a seaside town. Seagulls, they've shipped in everything that you would possibly need, and it's a sort of Victorian resort, really, but in Derbyshire. I was going to say it's very nice. It's okay. You can, you wouldn't spend more than an hour there, probably. Really popular with bikers on a Sunday. It's kind of the biking destination, motorbikes, on a Sunday. So you can go down there on a Sunday and see lots of motorbikes all lined up along the side of the street. And it's in sort of a valley as well. So you've got almost cliffs on either side of it. It's lovely. It's different.
Oh, worth a visit one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I realise we've turned into the primary geography podcast at this point, but I think that's
John,
fine.
I definitely should
holidays.
not be on a primary geography podcast.
No, you and me both. That's fine. So we we were having another little chat earlier, and I said that I think there's another little feature that I would like to include in the Primary Maths podcast. Now that we're 11 episodes in, we've sort of found our format a little bit. We'd like to start introducing some other little features. And Becky came up with a great suggestion, which we might use, we will use next week. But I just wanted to share this one, which goes alongside some writing that I've been doing. So if you're not familiar, one of my roles is that I sort of write articles and things about primary maths. And on the back of that, or in preparation for that, I have to do quite a lot of reading of recent research and things. I thought it might be useful to share some recent research. So I'm going to attempt to do some research in 60 seconds to share some recent academic studies with you. Well, in fact, it's just one academic study. So I don't know if you can time me, Becky. I haven't prepared you for this at all.
Hold on.
You can just estimate it if you like. Use those incredible skills of estimation.
Right, I'm going to officially time you, Jon.
Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah, go.
So this week's research is fresh off the press. We'll start that again. Okay.
Ready?
Do you know, one day I'm going to do an edit of all our outtakes, a blooper reel.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Ready? Go.
This week's research is fresh off the press, published just this August in Educational Studies in Mathematics journal. The paper is called Young Children's Own Notations, Ordinal versus Quantity by Vucina and Stott. And here's the 60-second version. So I thought this was really interesting. Basically, researchers followed 33 children aged 3 to 5. They followed them over a year, looking at how they notated quantity or cardinality. For example, there are 4 apples, versus order or ordinality, the duck is third in line. So they were looking at how they made jottings that signified these things. And what they found was that children were twice as likely to use numerals for quantity than for order. For ordinality, they often drew pictures or made marks instead of writing third. But for quantity, they would write down the number 4 to show that there were 4 apples. And so they looked at the development looked different across the 2 tasks. For quantity, children gradually mixed drawings, tallies, and numerals over time. But for order, they made a sudden leap, moving straight from drawings to using numerals correctly almost overnight. And they also found that the children often combined systems as well. So, for example, drawing a line of ducks and then writing 3 above one of them. And the authors called this intertextual engagement. So, implications for school. Quantity and order are not the same thing, and ordinal understanding may lag behind cardinal understanding. Don't dismiss unconventional notations. I guess they're valuable insights into how children are thinking, and explicitly link ordinal positions to numerals in EYFS and Key Stage 1, for instance, numbering toys in a race, while letting children use drawings and talk alongside numbers. And I've definitely got over 60 seconds, but that is my research this week.
You were just at 2 minutes, Jon. However, the first 20 seconds you were introducing the research, so it probably wasn't fair for me to start that early. So.
Okay. Well, I don't care.
It can be a target. It's a target to aim for.
No, do you know what? I'm going to rename the segment Research in 120 seconds-ish. But I did think I thought it was interesting. I thought the way that we understand, because they are totally different concepts, the idea of cardinality and ordinality. And I know that when I worked with the nursery team at the school that I worked at to look at how we could get those things into the environment, we were trying to make conscious decisions about whether we were going to represent the numbers to show ordinality or cardinality. So, for example, a pot of pens, we might write the number 6 on the pot of pens to show that there should be 6 pens in the pot when the children tidied up. But ribbons hanging up, we would write the numbers on those, not to show how many ribbons there were, but to show the order that they should be hung back up on when they were hung back up on the pegs to put those away. So just being conscious, I think, about the difference in what those numbers actually represent can be really important, and maybe more important than we realise. And I thought it was interesting to see that children have more of a sense of quantity than they do of order, first of all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting, John. I also love what you were saying about not dismissing unconventional notations. I think that's true all through the ages, isn't it? I think sometimes children come up with something and sometimes you can't make head nor tail of it, but a little discussion, you think, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's not the
Well,
traditional way, but
yeah, and not losing sight of those pictorial representations, because that's still what I do when I'm trying to work something out now, is that I'll
me too.
draw it out, and so we don't want to dismiss those things. And also, I think, as you're saying, that unconventional nature of it, sometimes we can want to constrain children into, you must use a bar model to show this. Whereas actually a bar model is a really useful representation if that's how it, how you see it at that moment in time. But there might be another way that really shows it for that child, that is equally valid to you. So that there's no reason why we have to show things in bar models or part whole models. We're giving children those tools to use because they might find them useful. But as you say, there might be a different way, a better way, even for that child to show it. And one pictorial representation could be as valuable as another.
Yeah, and that's why teaching problem solving is so important, isn't it? And teaching it not through this is a method to solve a problem, but how many different methods might we use? Let's talk about it. Let's look at someone else's method and so on. So important to share those different ways.
Definitely.
So that's it for this week's summer special.
Next week, we'll be back with our final bite-sized summer episode before the full podcast returns in September, with lots of great guests lined up to share their mathematical and pedagogical expertise with us. Until then, enjoy the holidays, keep spotting the maths of life, and don't let the seagulls near your chips.
If you've enjoyed today's show, please do share it with a colleague. You can also leave us a rating or review, which really helps new listeners to find the podcast. See you next time.
Absolutely. See you next time. Thank you.